So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and maybe good night from Argentina. I'm Javier Sala from Cordoba, Argentina. I'm a cardiologist. I'm actually the founder of the Lean Institute in Argentina, which actually is being incubated at a hospital with all the support from the Lean Enterprise Institute and also Lean Global Network and Lean Institute Brazil. It is my pleasure to introduce a dear friend, Dr. Susan Moffat Bruce, from whom I know for many years now, who is based in Canada now. She's the CEO of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada and also of the Royal College International. Susan was previously the executive director of the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, and she was the inaugural chief quality officer of the medical center. Susan has more than a decade of lean experience in many different environments, so I'm delighted to have her here with us today. Just before she gets started, for the audience, one tip, please ask your questions at the Q&As. At the end of the presentation, Dr. Moffat Bruce will be more than happy to address any questions, comments, or reflections. So again, it is a pleasure to have you here, Susan. The stage is all yours.
Great. Thank you, Javier. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And if you could just affirm that you see that, Javier?
Yes, I can see it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's evening where I am right now, but good morning, good afternoon, and good night to everyone. So as Javier was saying, I am situated in Ottawa, Canada. And Javier, my friend, is in Argentina. And so it just shows you that the world is small. I am situated in Ottawa, Canada, and therefore I am speaking to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. And I'm very cognizant and very grateful for being able to work here on these historical lands. The Royal College and Royal College International are based in Ottawa, but we are a national organization. And over the last 20 months,
We're seeing the slides, but not the presentation mode.
Okay. Okay, let's see if we can make that happen, okay? Just stop sharing and then we'll go right back in.
Sounds great.
Try this mode. Better?
We're seeing your computer now.
Are you seeing it now, Javier?
No, I'm seeing your computer. Actually, you can do it what you did before, but then I'll show you where to click.
Okay. Let's just go out of that. All righty. So we'll go back to share. Okay. Okay, now Javier, is there some guidance you want to give me?
Okay, so can you open the presentation now?
Yeah. Sure can, there we are.
Your presentation is open. We're seeing your desktop actually right now. So you see we're seeing the browser, but we're not seeing the PowerPoint.
Now? Give it a second.
Hello, guys. Hello, girls. Are you? Luis, you can join with us. Luis,
Anything? Javier, do you see it now?
No.
Stay in your place.
Not yet.
Right now.
I think somebody else.
Yeah, okay. Let's just try that once more.
If it doesn't work, and actually pull up the presentation you sent me.
I sent you.
Okay, but you, Maria Fernanda, you're supposed to be a host here in this session.
I don't know who is speaking there.
I don't know.
There you can click on the, right next to the Zoom. Right next to the Zoom, you will have the link, the icon for right next to you.
Okay, just a second.
Whereabouts,
Mario,
Javier?
right? Okay, so you're gonna be host,
Who is
and I'm
there?
gonna pick up your link. Just a second.
Let's see. You can try it again.
Mm-hmm.
We have Javier here, right? So,
Yes, somebody's with the microphone on.
he tested already to go to the main stage. Actually, I told him.
Javier, can you see the slides now? Okay, everybody's been silenced, I think.
Susan, we can see your slides then.
Oh, could you? Okay.
Now
We
you've
just
stopped
lost-
sharing. Yeah.
Okay, we just lost Javier.
Let's have it. He'll be back. We're just trying to fix this audio problem that was coming in. Okay, you're sharing again now, but not back into presentation mode. That you. Yep.
How's that, Lisa?
Yep. That's perfect.
Lovely. I'll hold tight till Javier comes back.
Okay, and it seems like we have hopefully fixed that audio.
Okay.
There we go. Javier got disconnected. Yes, we can see it. Okay, I'm sure he'll be back in a second if you want to.
Sure, I can just continue on then.
Go for
Lovely.
it.
Wonderful. Well, all that to say is that obviously as lean leaders, we have to be agile and go with the Zoom technology and all the virtual challenges. The Royal College itself is one that I came to about 20 months ago, and throughout the COVID challenges, I've had to learn very much, not only what the Royal College does, but what it doesn't. And really adding that lean perspective to it, I think has been very helpful for us to get through COVID. The Royal College is actually, there's no other college like it in the world. It's actually responsible for all specialist education across 68 different specialties. And we've been in place for almost 100 years now. We also have an arm of our business relative to having our standards and our educational programs across the world. And currently we have 40 different countries in which the Royal College works in. So all that to say, we have a great opportunity to bring lean and use lean leadership to so many different aspects of healthcare. And that has been very much my vision and something that we continue to work towards. So as my title says, you know, we're always learning. As lean learners and lean leaders, we have to learn and sometimes unlearn in order to be really meaningful in our job and in our responsibilities. And what I've really tried to invest and instill in the teams here is that not only are we always learning, but we have to always have this culture of inquiry so that we can learn and we can continuously engage in improvements. So I want to share maybe two of these scenarios, two of the challenges that really allowed me to continuously learn as a lean leader. The first challenge was that was presented to me on March the 13th, 2000, when COVID was announced as a pandemic and the world kind of shut down. We were just about to deliver our exams to our residents. In Canada, you have to take your exams before you can practice medicine of any type. And by virtue of us canceling these exams, we were going to impact not only the resident experience and the learner's experience, but we were going to impact the workforce. And the exams in 100 years of their existence had never been canceled. Even amidst world wars, we had never canceled an exam to this extent. And so this was really an unprecedented change. So we had to really think about what was it that we were going to do in order to meet the needs of society and our learners. there was a tremendous amount of uncertainty as well, because at that time, our exams were on paper. And so the uncertainty came about, how are we going to safely facilitate our residents, some 4,000 residents, to write exams in a safe manner? And how ultimately could we mitigate the impact of writing these exams at a different time, in a delayed manner, so that we wouldn't impact patients who needed care from physicians who were being certified through this process? So really the why and the how was very much a part of what we had to address at that time. And we were able to, by taking bite-sized pieces of the problem, to figure out how to take a in-person paper exam for 68 different specialties and use lean thought, lean direction to really empower those that were delivering these exams to come up with new solutions. They had to come up with these solutions that were going to be safe. We had to come up with solutions that would allow us to get across the world. And we had to make sure we stayed valid in the way that we delivered these exams. And so we ended up going from 17 different sites that we used to do in-person exams to 29 different sites across the world, delivering virtual and electronic exams in a very short time frame. But we were able to use those principles of lean to really empower the teams, have a shared vision, and to really be able to measure our success. Every day we said, how many exams have we delivered? How many exams were completed? And how did the resident experience get impacted? The second challenge that we had was that we traditionally go to the hospitals or go to the learning centers and physically, in person, review all the policies, processes, educational programs. And we had to take that in-person process and turn it to virtual. This process normally takes at least a week in person with multiple reviewers in these hospitals. And we had to, again, first time ever, go from in-person to virtual. And if we don't accredit hospitals and universities, then our learners can't continue on their journey to becoming specialists. And so we knew the impact was very real if we didn't do this in a new way. And so we pivoted. We used lean principles for empowering teams to come up with solutions. And we were able to, not once, but 3 times, deliver accreditation successfully in an entirely virtual format. These were 2 major significant pivots for us. And truly what I think the biggest challenge now is, having realized that we can make these changes, having realized that we can be successful, is now to think about, what have we learned? What will we continue doing? What will we stop doing? And what do we need to start doing? And I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges for us as lean learners, lean leaders, is really to think, how do we learn from what we've done and now apply it going forward in a thoughtful way? And so this is not the answer to being a lean leader in a crisis, but rather to enable our teams and really think differently about, how do we kind of apply a stepwise approach to many teams that may not understand lean or have not been immersed in lean, and certainly simplifying it for them so that they can identify that there are problems, that we can come to consensus and solutions as leaders, and then always measure the impact. And I think the thing that I've learned the most over the last 20 months is that measurement strategy and transparent sharing of the outcomes is really, really important, but takes time and takes deliberate intent. And so, as I say, as a lean leader, I think we're always learning in new environments, and that this culture of inquiry ultimately allows us to enable this continuous cycle of a learning healthcare system. And I think ultimately, as we come out of COVID and continue to go forward, we will learn that this culture of inquiry enables a learning cycle. So what do I mean by that? And I think it's where the lean and the health system and process improvement and quality improvement kind of come together and really enable systems and environments that allow us to use everything that we measure, everything that we learn, to put it back into the system. And I think in healthcare, that's even more important because we have patients every day. And quite frankly, we can learn from every patient every day. And we have to use those learnings to generate this knowledge and this continuous cycle. Really, what, again, I think as a lean leader in a crisis is being a leader with commitment. And I think that commitment allows us to enable the healthcare system. It allows us to systematically gather information and apply it real time. Makes us think about the voice of the customer, which is the patient and the family, and always measure. And maybe another thing that I've learned through this crisis is that measurement strategy, regardless of the crisis, regardless of what's going on, has to be part of what we do, or we don't learn. We very much are continuously looking at this learning cycle. And this is all part of that reapplication of learning lessons and always applying the data to the performance, the performance to the knowledge, and just making it a cycle around the patient and engaging the external stakeholders. I think our role as leaders in a lean system is really thinking about how are we always ready to change? How can we be receptive to change? And how are we responsive to change? And I think these 4 pieces of the puzzle in a crisis allow us to always learn from our strengths, but also to ready our teams so that they are ready for the next challenge, as we've seen in this crisis. And the kind of the way I've approached it with this newer team that I've had is, just think about how do we do things differently. We have to do things differently because our world has been turned upside down. But thinking that it's not, although there are some things that we have to do immediately, thinking about this as a more long-term process. And that even when we get to the finish line, we have to keep thinking beyond that because there is no real finish line. And always thinking about how do we go with good initially and then make it a little bit better the next time. And having this really open mindset, growth mindset, is absolutely fundamental to being a lean leader and being part of a team that's being led in a lean fashion. We've even applied it in Canada to the development of specialists so that as they're continuing to learn, we're trying to embed this idea of a learning cycle, which is really a lean approach to always learning from the output from the measurement strategy and then putting it back into the cycle so that we can always engage around our patients, around our system, around our plans, our outcomes, and then repeat it again. And I think we as healthcare providers have this opportunity to inform this learning cycle as we continue to evolve through the healthcare systems. What I really think during this crisis and as a leader, really trying to be a lean practitioner, is these model cells or bite-sized pieces of the puzzle. We have been able to, at the Royal College, have small projects across the world. And I think each of these small projects, which are looking to improve the education of healthcare providers, together make up a holistic puzzle. So not one project will make a difference, but collectively, the concept of the model cell really is innate, even in medical education, and thinking about it, that even what we're doing locally impacts us globally. And this is what we're trying to share as we go forward in our educational strategies. So as we've come through this crisis, and when I make my own personal reflections as a leader in a lean system, is that we're always learning and we can always learn, and that we must have that culture of inquiry in order to leverage what I would term, and many have termed, a learning healthcare system. And in that way, we will always be ready, receptive, and responsive to the challenges. But it means we have to take the different pieces of the puzzle and integrate them into this system of learning. And I think through Lean, we have that ability to empower. We have that ability to look forward to the true north and always think about how can we do this better in a way that engages teams and our stakeholders across many different pieces of the puzzle. And so we have come through a crisis. We will continue to have more challenges as we go forward, but we know that if we are responsive, we will be continuously successful. And I think through the lens, as a leader in a lean system, we have that opportunity going forward. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And I thank all the other speakers who presented so many wonderful ideas and solutions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I actually had to go through some crisis with technology during your presentation. Do you have your camera on?
I do.
Okay. So there's a question from the audience, okay, that I would like to make. Actually, this is a Rainy Raid, and he actually asks, how did you keep your teams motivated through the process? Did they get discouraged due to the effects of the pandemic?
Excellent question. So I think the piece of Lean around celebration was really key to our success. I mean, this was a team that had never lived through a cancellation, that had never lived through such a business operational change. And so we celebrated the wins. We were very clear in articulating that. The motivation factor when we were so shut down repeatedly was really hard to keep people motivated. We had a lot of chats, video chats. We had a lot of hallway conversations virtually. Really had to engage our senior leadership to reach out, particularly people that were living alone and still working virtually. We just had to be very purposeful with engaging teams and really celebrating their successes, which they were ultimately so successful.
So in relation to that question, actually, and based on your answer, what are the things that you think you're going to be keeping, okay, after this crisis, at least for the next few years? What are the things that came to stay, and you think that it's an advantage to actually keep them for the future?
Yeah, I think that's a great question too, and we've been thinking about that very deeply. I think what the pandemic showed us is that we can do things in a meaningful way in a virtual format. And I think that we had traditionally had this sense that we always had to be in person for every encounter. And I think we've learned that we can do some of this in a virtual way, which is much more much better stewards of our resources. And, in Canada, we're a very large country. It actually allows us to engage more people on the same conversation. So I think we will keep more of that. We still want to get back together when it's safe, but that piece of our business that we've not previously had will stay in a virtual. And so we need to make sure that we equip our facilities and our meeting rooms so that people can have meaningful engagement. Secondly, I think that our exams will always stay the way that we pivoted to in a virtual format, an online format, which again there was a 5-year plan on that, and we executed that in 8 months.
Yeah, that's actually what we have heard from many things. Actually, in healthcare, there were many years to make changes, and actually the pandemic actually made us realize that we could do changes a lot faster. So another question is related to your new position. What changed for you? Okay, going from the Wexner Medical Center as a CEO, and now in Canada as a CEO of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was at the medical center for 15 years. And you kind of build a team over that time frame, and you get to know people. And and you realize that so much of what you've done has been built on relationships. Then when you come and you adopt a new team, you kind of have to start at the beginning again. You have to making relationships in the middle of COVID. You have to think about how to do that creatively. You have to make sure you had to really think about how to engage my leadership team that I didn't know that well, and be very purposeful and intentional around that. And then really try to introduce the concepts of lean at a time when they couldn't take much more relative to new learnings or new education, and just really embed the principles, even in a subtle way, so that it became meaningful to their work, and then be more formal in the learning, in the teaching of lean to the teams.
Great answer. This is more, I would say, kind of I know that you like traveling, actually being present and being at the Gembas. How hard has this pandemic and this crisis been for you?
Yeah, I miss seeing people for sure. I think it's been very different, right? And so I think it's been hard not to see staff. It's been hard not to see our fellows and our physicians and surgeons that we support. On the other hand, I think that we've been able to develop other types of relationships, and actually we've felt like we're all in this together. So we've created so many great relationships across the world that we maybe wouldn't have been, seeking input from, because now we had a collective crisis. And actually, I think the world got smaller through the pandemic, and that's been phenomenal. And so but now I'm looking forward to meeting those people after, or when things resume to be a little bit more normal, because they've been so supportive throughout the pandemic.
What about the programs for the international college? Did you have to change, programs, make them shorter, make them, in a different way due to the pandemic? And are you going to keep them that way?
Very good question. So we had traditionally done all our programming in person, where we'd actually send people from Canada to these other countries. And we actually learned through COVID and through facilitated platforms like this one that we can actually deliver a fair amount of content in a virtual format, which is, again, much more time efficient and resource efficient. And so we'll probably move to a hybrid function going forward. We are also able to engage with experts within their own countries so that we could facilitate their training and onboarding to deliver some of the programs to our fellows therein. And so we were actually able to partner in different ways locally to affect some of our programs. So that was a very key learning as well.
Well, Susan, it was a pleasure to have you here. I would have loved to, see the entire presentation, but it was great. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And we were asked to just leave 1 minute before for people to be able to join the next session. So thank you so much for being here with us and sharing all your knowledge and wisdom. It has been a pleasure, and I hope we can get together soon.
Thank you very much, Javier. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you.